According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the military potential of Ukraine's armed forces and other power structures has been significantly reduced. However, military expert and retired Lieutenant General Yuri Nepchev believes that the Ukrainian armed forces still retain their combat potential. They still have a significant number of military transport and attack helicopters, roughly the size of 2 regiments, he said. The raid by 2 Ukrainian attack helicopters on an oil depot near Russia's Belgorod shows that there are still good specialists, qualified and experienced pilots in the Ukrainian armed forces. These pilots have the ability to control helicopters flying at extremely low altitudes, away from the tracking range and destructive power of anti-aircraft weapons. The expert noted that Ukraine's multiple rocket launchers, MLRS, and field artillery are also a significant military threat to the Russian armed forces, and only half of their potential is destroyed. In addition, the TK tactical missile systems remain in combat status. They are capable of flying at a distance of up to 120 kilometers. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, no more than 10 devices, launchers, and 85% of the missiles for these systems were destroyed. According to media reports, by 2021, the Ukrainian armed forces have up to 90 TK launchers and 800 missiles attached. This means that more than 100 missiles and at least 70 mobile launchers are still in the operational component of the Ukrainian army somewhere. The Kiev government and its partners are trying to significantly increase the potential of the Ukrainian armed forces as soon as possible. Media reports that the U.S. administration is negotiating with its NATO allies under the Warsaw Pact to transfer Soviet-made tanks and armored vehicles to Ukraine. According to the New York Times of the U.S., Poland has more than 500 T-72 tanks and about 23 T-91 T-72M1 tanks. Warsaw is now ready to supply Ukraine in return for Leopard tanks and Abrams of Germany and America. In addition, Romania is ready to transfer up to 1 battalion, about 30 T-72 tanks, to the Ukrainian armed forces. Germany can play an important role in the delivery of armored vehicles to Ukraine. German Defense Minister Christine Lambrecht has approved a plan to deliver 58 PBV 501 armored personnel carriers to the Ukrainian army. Russian military expert, retired Colonel Shamil Garayev said that these are BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicles. These vehicles are equipped for 2 battalions, in which their artillery can hit tanks, other armored vehicles and personnel at a distance of up to 1.3 kilometers. The Russian expert said, "This is a formidable weapon. Any infantry officer of the Ukrainian armed forces is capable of operating such weapons without any special training." Kiev and Ankara have reached an agreement on Turkey providing the Ukrainian military with a large batch of Bayraktar TB2 unmanned aerial vehicles. The media says the steps of this process have already been started. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby announced that the U.S. will soon deliver a new package of military aid to Ukraine, expected to include highly maneuverable multi-purpose wheeled armored vehicles, laser-guided missile systems, tactical drones such as Suicide Killers Switchblade and Puma, anti-aircraft missiles, night vision goggles and thermal cameras, safety communication systems. According to U.S. media, the Pentagon in the coming days will promote the delivery of Soviet-made T-72 tanks, which are serving in the armies of NATO countries, to Ukraine. In total, Ukraine can receive up to 700 tanks of this type, which means that it can restore its full potential before the conflict. According to some sources, the process of supplying tanks to the Ukrainian armed forces has begun. In the media in recent days, photos of an armored train carrying BMP-1 armored vehicles and Czech T-72 tanks are moving eastward. Earlier, the media and various social media sources reporting on events in Ukraine revealed that the leadership of Kiev ordered the conversion of a series of passenger wagons into cargo for the secret transport of military equipment and fuel tanks. This activity was organized at several railway enterprises in Kiev, Kremenchug and Nikolaev in an atmosphere of strict secrecy, under the control of representatives of the State Security Service, SBU. According to Ukraine's defense ministry, Russia is regrouping its military and concentrating its efforts on launching an offensive in eastern Ukraine with the objective of established full territorial control of the Donetsk and Lugansk regions. Meanwhile, the Russian military continued to blockade Kharkov, shelling the city's infrastructure.